When the PlayStation 2 was announced in 1999, BMG Interactive were reformed as Rockstar Games. The Grand Theft Auto series was gaining in popularity, and the publisher wanted to set the record straight by releasing some launch titles for the upcoming system. While DMA Design were at work on a certain generation-defying title, Rockstar went to seek for other developers, and picked wisely with Angel Studios, who you may know them as Rockstar San Diego, the developers of Red Dead Redemption and the Rage engine used for Rockstar Games at the 7th and 8th generation. But before the turn of the millennium, they were already making decent titles including Midtown Madness and the system-pushing Nintendo 64 port of Resident Evil 2. On the PlayStation 2 North American launch day, Angel Studios released Smuggler's Run, where you perform smuggle runs across 3 maps with nothing but off-road vehicles, and Midnight Club Street Racing with fairly similar gameplay, but in a completely opposite environment. While Smuggler's Run had one more sequel, Midnight Club is a series spanning across another generation, representing Rockstar's ambition of edgier content. However, I'm going into street racing having never played a Midnight Club game. I grew up playing the Need for Speed Underground titles, so I've always dismissed what Rockstar offered for the genre despite my love for the GTA series. But since I've gotten a lot of requests to review this, your wish is my command. But don't take that too serious. You're a cab driver who works night shifts in New York City, but is next to a random street racer part of the Midnight Club. He's being taunted at, but having none of it, and surprisingly manages to keep up. That's the best explanation I can come up with. The career mode literally begins with Emilio saying you can't keep up with no previous cutscene.
Hey, don't get left behind, bye bye.
So there's no concrete story, and the text to dialogue makes it feel like a PlayStation 1 game that was upgraded to the PS2 at the last minute. But I suppose GTA 2 began with Claude placed in the middle of the city, and there are biographies in the menu to provide some sort of character development. Or the Midnight Club. In fact, there's a nickname for every option: 9 to 5, Knocking Heads, and the Big Apple. After keeping up with Emilio, he accepts you into the Midnight Club, and New York City is free for you to explore. While the city feels empty, I can assure you that traffic in New York wouldn't be this light. All the notable landmarks are present, like the Empire State Building, Central Park, and Madison Square Garden, to name a few. And if you combine New York and London, which we'll get to, the map size combined is larger than Grand Theft Auto 3. Unsurprising considering Angel Studios' experience with the Midtown Madness games. Although there's no widescreen option, the city size, draw distance, and weather effects set the tone early for the PlayStation 2. So what do you do here? There'll be Midnight Club members driving around awaiting a challenge, and they're indicated on the map and drive different types of cars. To begin a race, you have to follow the driver long enough for them to take you to the starting line, which is honestly harder than the race itself, with some being too fast to keep up with because of the car, not you.
Hey buddy, you trying to bore me to death or what?
Because opponent drivers occasionally hit into things, you have to slow down for them, and because they always have the faster car, when they pick up speed again, you're almost always unable to keep up. They'll drive away just because he or she crashed, forcing you to try again.
I thought we were having a little race.
Have Rockstar San Diego ever heard of a simple race selection? At least when you have to approach them again for another race. Their route is similar, which makes it easier to keep up the second or third go. Once you eventually reach the start line, the race will begin. The way it works is that there are checkpoints scattered all over the city. Some are structured in a linear way, while others are placed randomly and you need to calculate the fastest possible route. There'll be shortcuts to drive through and police can slow you down, though you can't be arrested nor do you have to escape them after the race, like Need for Speed Most Wanted. As you progress further throughout your career, races become longer and more police spawn. Whether you see the non-linear checkpoint system as a clever puzzle or just a tedious multitask is up to you. Basically, find the best shortcuts, maintain your speed around the corners, ignore the completely useless arrow above, and don't hit any traffic. I honestly don't understand the time limit because you have to place first to progress further, and the leader typically finishes before the timer. Also, the time it takes for opponents to finish varies, like as far as 10 or even 20 seconds. So whenever a driver says,
Yes, you was lucky,
honestly, he's not kidding. It all comes down to luck and quick reflexes.
Here's my number. Call when you want to race. Anytime. Night or night.
Whenever you win a race, the rival driver will give you their number, offering you to race them one-on-one for their car. It's essentially the go-to for new cars if you think yours is too slow for the city champion. Fortunately, you don't have to tediously follow them halfway around the world to the start line. This is how you expand your garage. There are 3 versions based on the level of customization, with the higher rated models providing the best stats in nitrous oxide. There are many different types of cars like hot hatches, muscle cars, and pickup trucks. However, while you earn cars that are being customized, it's extremely limited in terms of player customization. The only things you can change are the color and transmission. Also, they're not licensed. Still, anything's better than the Taxi, which couldn't accelerate any slower than this even if you made the wheels square. Phone Emilio right at the beginning.
I thought you were this time.
But whatever car you're driving, the controls are hit and miss. They're a bit like the earlier Midtown Madness games, expect to use the handbrake constantly. It's not bad when you get the hang of it. However, it's almost impossible to keep the car on a straight line. I initially thought the handling stat hardly make a difference, but as I scrolled through faster cars, it became apparent they love being on 2 wheels. The sequels were able to improve the controls, so fair enough. But what do you do here? Sacrifice speed or handling? Well, what you need to do is find the right car for a certain race, meaning you have to keep winning against different drivers, increasing gameplay time. Smart.
I finally see what you like from behind. Very fast. I let you win. It's only polite.
After winning against all available drivers 2 or 3 times, the champion of the city will appear, but I would wait until you unlock the best car of its class first, so you have the nitrous oxide to keep up.
How the hell did you manage that?
Beating the city champion in a race, which will take you at least 20 minutes, will unlock London, which again has a lot of the notable landmarks including Trafalgar Square and Tower Bridge. Although the streets are tighter than New York, which reduces the margin for error, because there's no rubber banding and opponent drivers have similar error levels, as in they're just as likely to hit into something as you would, and by then you've got a faster car and played it enough to get the hang of the driving mechanics, the second half of the game is actually easier, with a few championship exceptions. Aside from the career mode, there's no real gameplay variety. There's free roam and single races, but the only one worth mentioning is capture the flag, or stealing the colors. You start in the middle of the city with the flag randomly placed, and you're meant to grab it and take it to the green marker, kind of like scoring a goal. There are also no teams. Whenever an opponent driver tags you, he steals the flag, so it's just like the regular races, except you have to capture a flag while avoiding other drivers. You can set it to either a time or score limit, I wish it was clearer, and the driver with the most points wins. Honestly, with heavy traffic, this is the best part of the whole game after you unlock faster cars. If only Midnight Club Street Racing was released for other systems, or the PlayStation 2 allowed more than 2 players, because I can imagine Capture the Flag being addictive at parties. Because Midnight Club Street Racing was able to capitalize on the monster launch of the PlayStation 2, over 2.5 million copies were sold, while nothing compared to what Rockstar are used to today. It's a decent number when you consider that this came out before Need for Speed Underground, GTA 3, and even the Fast and the Furious. It also sold better than all the sequels that came after, and it was a PlayStation 2 exclusive. Okay, there's a Game Boy Advance version, but who cares about that? Along with Smuggler's Run and the GTA series in the 5th generation, the seeds for Rockstar taking over the gaming landscape were planted here. But in retrospective hindsight, Midnight Club Street Racing is basically a console version of the first 2 Midtown Madness games, with illegal street racing themes added to the mix. And now that we have sequels that transform the series into its own identity, the first one is a decent but short and repetitive open world racer without much variety.